So I was just basically reacting to this, um, just normally watching. I was just watching this. I mean, I know this is kind of older. I was watching it. Um, it was in my feed. I just started watching it, and I was talking to my wife about it, like how crazy and ridiculous this is. And I'm thinking, like, man, I should just put this on YouTube. Like I should just put my opinion on YouTube and just call it a day and do that. Um, so that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. So I mean, there's one part in particular.
Hundreds of students are failing.
As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, we found a student who's passed three.
Now, like for me, it's a part that really not bothered me, but it really got my attention. It was something the mother said. I just want to go to that. I just want to find that what the mother said real quick.
It's coming June.
No, not that. Let's get to the juicy part where it shows the grades. This is
years. He has passed just 3 classes, earning 2.5 credits.
All right. So when I first read the title, it was on I guess you could say it was on another YouTuber's channel. It was a video they made, and when I read the title of it, I didn't understand. Like I thought they was saying that like he ranked at the maybe I'm confused. Maybe I didn't watch the whole video yet, so I may be like speaking before I should. But it said something about him ranking at the top of the class, but yet failing or something. Yet failing all his classes. I'm trying to think like how is that possible? So I was kind of confused, and that was really what interested me about the video was just the title because it seemed so contradictory, like an oxymoron or something. It didn't even make sense. But when I started watching the actual video, because I mean, I wanted to see the actual content, not the actual content, but the actual video, the actual news broadcast of this experience of this teenager and their experience in high school. When I actually looked at it, I was shocked and dumbfounded at the lack of care that this child received from his parent. I mean, the school plays a role. They play a part because obviously the student is attending the school, and the school has an obligation to reach out to the parents. I mean, when I was in school, when I was in high school, they would reach out if I was cutting in class, or if I wasn't coming to school, or if my grades were getting worse or whatever. Like they would reach out in some form or fashion. I'm not saying that they were like elite at it. That's the baby. I'm not saying that they were elite at doing this for me in my school that I went to when I was a teenager. They weren't the best. There were many things that my mom was probably oblivious to. But they were they did try to inform the parents, and they did try to become involved in that regard. So from one perspective, the school does play a role because they should notify the parents if something weird is going on, because you don't know what that could be. I mean, like a kid just suddenly starts missing classes and being late all the time. That could be a family issue. That could be some type of circumstances happen. That can be an illness. You don't know. You have to kind of try to seek out, because obviously a school's objective is to have its student body graduate and to have good grades. You want that for your students. If you are a good school and you are a good staff, then you want that for your students. If you don't care about your students, you're just there for a paycheck, then obviously you're not going to be invested in their life outside of school. You don't have to be involved in their life. You shouldn't be in that regard, but you should want them to succeed. And oftentimes success in this regard, and especially for children and teenagers, a lot of that it begins in the home. Like what's happening in that home environment is contributing to a lack of focus, contributing to these different attitudes that emerge when they are in school, in class, their reaction to things, reaction to work, reaction to discipline, and so forth. But it begins in the home. Your first and foremost teacher, your first and foremost educator, either consciously or unconsciously, meaning the parent can know that they are this, or they don't have to know. Regardless, you as a parent are going to be the focal point of your child's existence. In a way, and I know I don't want to offend any religious people, but in a way you are their God. You are their creator. You gave birth to them, you formed them in a certain way, and they are here, and they solely depend on you for everything. You are their nourishment. I mean, nourishment comes through you. It comes through the mother. If you breastfeed, you literally are their nourishment, and that's a food. And impressions, what we look at, what we read, what we sort of take in from imitation. This is all food as well. It's a certain kind of food. And this is nourishment for their mental development, for their growth, for how they look at the world, how they deal with things. So it becomes their food. So being that you are the primary teacher for your children, you have to be invested in them so heavily. And it doesn't end because they're no longer, they no longer need you to basically feed them because they can't feed themselves. But as long as they're in your house, you should want to know about their life. You should be involved. And it doesn't matter how busy you are. You can have 3 jobs. You still have a phone. You still come home, and you still can speak to your child. And you should know your child more than anyone knows them. And so you should be able to know when they're lying, when they're being truthful, and when something's going on. And in this story, for me, the interesting thing about this story is when the mother starts to talk. And she said how, I can get her frustration. I understand. She's a single mother. Again, that's the result of many different, I don't want to say policies, but many different sort of movements that have not benefited mothers at all. Not the family unit. And she's a single parent. I grew up in a single parent home in America, and my mom struggled because she's by herself, because a family needs to have that sort of nuclear component where they have 2 parents, raising them, because a mother is not going to be able to reach a son in a way that a father can. You need some type of figure, some father figure like that can stand in place of what is missing, what is lacking. Because there are character components of individuals' psyche that's important that comes from a father figure, or at least that sort of imitation is derived from a father figure. And if she's not stay-at-home mom, but a working mother, and she's single, and there's no male in the household, and she's trying to work, and I know it's very busy, but there's always a way to be involved. These are your children. you gave birth to them, number one, which is a monumental event, but you've also invested a lot of your energy, your life, your time, your feelings into the growth, your money, everything into the growth of your children. So why, when they get to a certain age, you just drop the ball and don't care anymore? Or if you do care, you just say, well, I didn't have time. You had time when they were a baby and they couldn't take care of themselves. All because they're a teenager doesn't mean that they can take care of themselves in the larger sense of the world. You got to prepare them for the world. It's tough out there. And if they're doing whatever they want right now when they're a teenager, then how are they going to be able to survive in this world? You have to be able to give them the tools. Then when they make mistakes and don't show up for school, what was it, like 272 times he's been late or absent? That cannot be a thing. How do you not know that as a parent? Like how is your son or whatever is living in such a lifestyle that you do not even know? Like, if he only passed 3 classes, like, and he failed 22 times. It's, and I don't want to be and sound like some of the, some of the people who have reacted to this, because I am a free thinking individual. I am a mystic in a way. I'm a mystical individual. I'm all about self-development, growth, development of consciousness, and so forth. I'm not this sort of typical, atypical, I guess you could say what they call these conservatives, black conservatives. Like I'm not what those things are and what they represent, but I do share values like that because I believe in personal accountability. Um, because if a person is seeking to become a conscious being, you have to be accountable for only your own actions. And for you only exist in a way because you have to use life for your work and your development. And you have to be crafty because everything is showing you. Everything is reflecting a part of yourself. And you have to be knowledgeable of that reality. So personal accountability and being able to really be who you are or strive to be who you are really and hold yourself accountable is important. So I can't look at this and say, oh, it's the school's fault, but I can see that perspective and I can understand it and I can sympathize with that. But I can also see the holes in that, where there's a lack of foundation in that, although like the school does play a part, but you as a parent, you play the optimal part. You are the foundation. I mean, it's a sad story. I didn't even finish watching the whole thing. It's just that there were certain things that just made me react to it so strongly that I just had to make this video real quick. And just because. I mean, it was just so striking. I couldn't believe it. So that was all. I just thought I would just voice my concerns and my perspective, man. I mean, it's crazy. And it's not as if when I was in high school, I was just a model student. I mean, I was really smart, but I made mistakes. Sometimes I didn't go to school. But not 272 times. God. Like, that's crazy. Like, well, he must not have been doing anything then. But then again, this comes back to like, why are you, people have to ask themselves questions. Like, what are you learning? Why are you, what is really school to you? Like, what is the end goal in this? the ancient schools had a totally different purpose, totally different purpose. Those were about enlightenment, the growth of being and consciousness. You understand the universe, you understand yourself. You understand yourself, you understand the universe. So you use yourself as a sort of mini version of what is the greater, larger reality. So it had a totally different purpose then, So what it is now is, it's to get a job at the end, you get educated, but you got to go on to the next thing. Everything is built on getting that job at the end that you often don't get, And I think that schools will do well if they actually sought to teach some of the elements of why it even existed in the first place, in the ancient worlds, which is about the development of mind and being, the lack of self-knowledge, to know thyself. And I think if people had that component, they knew themselves, they would know their direction. They would see the holes in their logic, or they would see the divisions, what takes them away from and pulls them out of a path that's moving in a, I guess you could say, in a progressive developmental line. They're actually progressing. They're reaching an aim. They have the aim. The aim is there, but something takes them away, and that something is them. Parts of them that they don't see. And the idea and the aim is to become, integrated, to become more whole, to become more harmonious, to bring about that sort of union of that sort of, that wild part that exists in you, and the part in you that can be a little more reasonable. Try to work between those two different dynamics. It's like the old folktale stories of the fox. Well, not the fox, but the wolf and the sheep. You have both in you. And the goal of the man is to bring them, not to bring them together, but to bring a harmony. Not to ignore the sheep and not to ignore the wolf in order to be with the sheep, but to have both natures. It's a lack of self-knowledge that leads to all of this. It's a lot deeper than, it's just a parent. It's a lot deeper than that sort of dialogue and conversation. This is about self-knowledge and one's place in existence, and what is one's purpose here, if it is not to develop oneself and grow. That's just my perspective. Some may disagree, but I come from that direction. So my videos will be about that. When I read something or I see something that I just have to respond to. Okay. That's it. That's all I got to say.